So what does 80 hours worth of sewing, 5 different sketches, and a week to execute a masterpiece of a design look like all during Pride Month? Let me show you. Hi, my name is Neha and I am an artist, fashion designer, and the founder of Agni, a fusion sustainable fashion line. And recently I had the honor of collaborating with my friend and fellow artist Ravjot Mehik Singh on a very special Pride look that celebrated her identity as a queer Sikh Punjabi creative. So today I'm going to talk to you about the process and how this design came to be. Guys, say hi to Nabi. She wants to be in the video too. Nabi! Okay, you go over here. So overall, this idea was very spontaneous and last minute. It was not something that we had planned ahead of time. Ravjot came to me one day and just said, hey, I'm going to be walking in a Pride parade in New York and I want to wear something really special for this. So would you be interested in collaborating with me? And as a designer, I am always looking for creatives who believe in a more is more philosophy and just have a very maximalist fashion sense. So that's how this started. And like I said, this was a very quick project, and altogether for actual sewing time, we only had about 8 days to do this. But before we can make anything happen, there's a lot of steps we have to discuss and think about before we can even get to sewing and assembling our design. So first things first, we had to lock in what our design, what our pattern was going to be, and what exactly were we going to be making. So at the time, I was working on creating my own rainbow fabric by combining different colorful metallic trims together. So I said to her, this could be an interesting option for Pride Month. What do you think of this? So initially we were kind of going back and forth between a couple ideas I had centered on this particular fabric. And then Ravjot came to me with her own idea, which started out as the sketch, which seems simple, but it actually had a lot of different really unique layers to it. So the inspiration behind Ravjot's design was two things. One, something that paid homage to her queer identity, and specifically using the color scheme of the pansexual flag, which is pink, blue, and yellow, and then a nod to her culture of being Sikh and Punjabi. So we were really inspired by the image of a brandi, which is a braid that typically has embellishments woven throughout it and also at the end, for those of you who don't know. And also we wanted to incorporate some Punjabi text as well. So a phrase that we both really liked was the phrase "Assi sare ek khan," which means we are all one in Punjabi. So we wanted to incorporate this text embroidered somewhere into the design as a universal message and just a good reminder for everyone during Pride Month. So altogether, her look was a combination of text and adornment in this cultural sense, but also a nod to her queer identity through the color scheme. And then on top of that, the actual look that she wanted for this whole design was the feel of a superhero. So in her sketch, she had these exaggerated pants with these sharara style flares on the bottom and a blouse in the center with these braided elements, and topping it off with this dramatic cape. And so altogether, we have 4 very strong design elements, which were 1, the sense of embellishment and how we were going to decorate it through beadwork. 2, the overall silhouette of it being very superhero inspired and having this dramatic design. 3, having this embroidered text placed somewhere on our look. And then 4, the braids and how we were going to incorporate that and weave it into the design somehow. So as a designer, I had to figure out a way to incorporate all of these things into one cohesive design that would look really elegant and feel like fashion and not necessarily costumey. That was my biggest fear with this design. I didn't want it to feel like a cosplay type outfit. I wanted it to feel very much fashion. So basically, a superhero, but make it fashion. So now the next thing that we had to do was source our materials and go shopping. So I already knew that I wanted the base of our design to be neutral so that all the colors of the flag would really pop because they are bright, fun colors, and I wanted them to take center stage. So I decided that I would go with a black satin and then pair it with light breezy chiffon on the cape. But the real challenge was what we were going to use for the embellishments and also for the braids. So the first thing I had to think about while shopping was what type of string I would use so the braids would still look realistic and hair-like. So I actually went through 5 different yarn samples before settling on a mixture of silky cording and glitter yarn. And for our embellishments, I had to find a way to create a desi type feel without having access to artisans in India. So after doing a lot of research, I decided to replace the tassels that are often seen in traditional designs and update it with a mixture of clear acrylic beads that I found in the kids section and some upcycled pearls. And so the next challenge was, how are we going to engineer this, because the braid was very challenging both aesthetically and from an engineering purpose.
So visually, the blouse was the centerpiece of our entire outfit, so we wanted the braid in this area to be very exaggerated by making it as thick as possible. So the challenge was, how do we add as many strands of hair as possible without it looking too bulky, which we did by adding 45 pieces of yarn per section and then steaming them flat. Then once we created the braid, attaching it to the blouse was difficult because the braid kept moving around when I tried to hand sew it, so we had to engineer our own tape out of little pieces of interfacing that we used to glue it into place. And then after securing the braid to the blouse, we spent hours and hours simply tacking down each individual strand of hair so that as she moves, nothing is getting out of place, not only on the blouse, but on the pants as well. So altogether, every piece of yarn that you see in this entire outfit has been very tediously sewn down. And then finally, from an engineering standpoint, what I didn't anticipate was how much weight the braid and the embellishments would add to the fabric, so I had to go back in and find ways of adding strength by hand sewing corset boning on the inside and making some of the embellishments detachable jewelry pieces so that the fabric wouldn't give out from the additional weight.
So altogether, this look ended up being about 80 hours worth of work to complete, but more than anything, what this represents to me is a duality between culture and identity, and how we don't have to choose. We can be exactly who we are in our faith, who we choose to love, how we choose to live our lives, and have it all harmonized, and most importantly, to be unapologetic. That's exactly what this look was to me, not just aesthetically it being this very bold design, but that boldness represents fearlessness. It represents being unapologetic, and that's exactly who Ravjot is, and it's what the LGBTQIA community means to me. I see the love that this community has and how much fearlessness it takes to not only love yourself, but to love your community and to teach others to love as well. And so altogether, our thought process behind this look was one of just so much heart, both in the labor of love that went into this, but also in the idea and the concept and what we wanted to convey with this. So I hope everyone had a really good Pride Month, and let me know if you liked this look and if you liked hearing our process behind creating these custom pieces, and hopefully we get to do more of this soon. Thank you guys so much for watching.